Students, we're going to start chapter 3 and we're going to get into lines and angles. That's what this first part of chapter 3 is all about. In example 1, we're going to identify types of lines and planes. Now I want you to note the box that I've placed here for you. I just put a little squiggle beside it. And there are 4 things that we need to discuss. The first thing, parallel lines, and you can see that we have 2 long skinny lines here. That's our symbol in geometry for indicating that lines are parallel, okay? So your definition states this: parallel lines are coplanar, so that means they lie in the same plane, and they don't intersect. They wouldn't be parallel if they intersected, right? So in the figure to the right there, that cubed shape there, in the figure it says line AB is parallel to EF and EG is parallel to FH. So it's given you some ideas. I want to point out to you, some symbolism. I circled this one. That's just, I don't remember what it's called exactly. It looks like an arrowhead, but when they stick it in the middle of a line like that and then they duplicate it here, that means those 2 lines are parallel on the figure. So if you want to mark a figure, you're going to do like little arrowheads. Notice that they did 1 arrowhead for line AB and line EF. And for EG and FH, they did 2. So they duplicated it. They didn't just do 1 again, because then that would indicate that EG and FH are also parallel to AB and EF, which they obviously and clearly are not. So if you want to separate out parallel lines, you just increase the number of arrowheads. So if we wanted to do a 3rd set, we could, and that would be easy enough to do. Okay, perpendicular lines, notice the symbolism. So here's parallel, 2 long skinny lines. Here's perpendicular, okay? Perpendicular is an upside down capital T. So it kind of looks like a line. A vertical line is hitting a horizontal line, so it kind of makes sense. They intersect at 90-degree angles, so you are looking for some symbolism in your drawing that it actually is 90. So they'll put like a little box there if it is actually 90 degrees. So you can see how they wrote it out symbolically. AB is perpendicular to AE. Those 2 lines form a 90-degree angle, so they're perpendicular. And another example would be EG and GH. They form a 90-degree angle, so they're perpendicular as well. Skew lines, there's no symbol for that. Skew lines, first of all, they don't lie in the same plane, and they're not parallel, they don't intersect. The way that I think of skew lines as you're studying this, let me erase our figure, what I wrote on our figure here. There we go. Let me kind of mark AB is back here, okay? Kind of darken that up just a little bit, and then EG. Now notice that they are not in the same plane, and that's really important. In fact, that's a key part of this, a key component. They're not going to intersect because they're not in the same plane to begin with. I kind of look at it like, let's say you're an air traffic controller and you have to monitor planes. You're not going to fly planes at the same exact altitude. You're going to distinguish and differentiate. You're going to have some higher, some in the middle, some are lower, getting ready to land. And you're going to work around that. I kind of view skew lines like that. They're not parallel, they're not in the same plane, they're not going to intersect and crash each other. So that's how AB and EG, that's why they are skew. Parallel planes, you're going to still use that parallel symbolism, but you're just going to talk about the plane. And you can either use a single letter that's found in the plane itself, usually kind of a script letter, or use 3 letters from that plane. So plane ABE, so here's this plane right here, there's ABE, and it's going to be parallel to CDG, okay? Yeah, so these are definitely parallel here and here. They are. The sides of your box are parallel. The front and back of your box are parallel. So those planes are parallel. So a lot of it's, can you see it? Okay, can you visualize it? Okay, so example 1, our goal is to identify some of these things that we just learned about in this box above. So they want us to write down a pair of parallel segments. Okay, notice they didn't ask for lines, they didn't ask for array, they said a segment. So our symbols are going to be a little bit different when we do a segment versus a line versus array. Okay, so a pair of parallel segments could be something like segment MN. I'm just doing an example. There's tons of them on here. Parallel to your two long skinny lines. And what is MN parallel to? Well, MN appears to be parallel. We could either write KL across the top there. See here? Here and here. They're parallel. Or you could do NM and SR. So I'll do SR. Or RS, I guess. And you're going to do a long, like the long line, little segment across the top with no arrows, because that's what indicates a segment. Your book gave KN and PS. That would have worked too, because they're showing the little arrows here, and here. So that gives it away as well. KN is parallel to PS. That's another really good one, okay? But there's a bunch of them on there, so don't feel limited and don't feel like, oh, I'm wrong because I didn't list what Mrs. Thompson picked out, or even what the book listed. There's a ton of them on there, okay? So, all right, letter B, we got a pair of skew segments. So just remember, the key to this is they cannot lie in the same plane. They are not parallel, and they don't intersect. So we could do something like KL, which is back here, and maybe NS. Okay, and we'll just write it like this, and NS are skew. Because there's no symbolism, so we're going to have to use words to explain ourselves a little bit. That's fine. Letter C, a pair of perpendicular segments. So what are we looking for? Are symbolisms like this, and then, in the corners, we're looking for those little boxes that indicate 90-degree angle. So you're looking for what forms that 90-degree angle. So we could go NS is perpendicular. There's that upside down capital T to SR. Okay? And a pair of parallel planes. You've got 1, 2, 3 pairs of them that you can choose from, so it doesn't really matter what you choose. You could do top and bottom, so we could do plane and do 3 letters. We could do KLM, plane KLM is parallel, don't forget the symbolism, to plane, and then we're going to have to go to the bottom here, PQR. Okay, these are just a couple of examples, but I did 1 or 2 for each, but there's tons of answers here, so you're definitely not limited. Now, if anything I've said has confused you, bring your questions to class. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Maybe we can set up a 3-dimensional kind of figure so it makes a little bit better sense. So that might actually be very, very helpful, okay? So write down your questions and we'll talk about it tomorrow.